Now to Los Angeles, to the body found in the trunk of a Tesla belonging to a well-known singer. The body identified as a teenage girl missing for more than a year. Well, tonight, investigators are now at the home where that singer had been staying, removing several items.
A grisly discovery in Los Angeles has led to a police investigation on the West Coast. Authorities say they were called to an impound lot in Hollywood after someone noticed a foul odor coming from a car.
Breaking news now, the body of a young girl found in the trunk of a Tesla has been identified.
Something about this story doesn't add up, and it's not just shocking, it's genuinely disturbing. Imagine this. One of the internet's breakout singer-songwriters, a guy who built his entire career on TikTok clips and YouTube uploads, the same guy who just landed a collaboration with Fortnite, is suddenly at the center of a nightmare no one saw coming. Authorities didn't just find a car. They didn't just find a clue. They found a body hidden in the back of David's Tesla. And the most chilling part? The body didn't belong to some unknown stranger. It was the remains of a girl the internet had been searching for, a girl who vanished when she was only 13. The discovery cracked open the carefully polished image David spent years building online. Here was someone praised as the voice of Gen Z heartbreak, pulling in millions of streams, headlining shows, smiling for fans. But behind the screens, behind the music videos, behind the edits flooding social media, something much darker was happening. This isn't just another influencer scandal. It's not another messy breakup livestream or fake drama for clout. This is a case that has people questioning whether the art David made, his lyrics, his music videos, his online posts, was secretly documenting something horrific all along. And that's where the story gets even stranger. Because when you start piecing together what investigators found, what fans have dug up online, and what David himself has put into his songs, it feels less like a coincidence and more like a trail of breadcrumbs left out in the open. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, let's break down what was actually discovered. The first reports didn't sound real. A Tesla, impounded in a quiet suburban lot, had been left untouched for days. People assumed it was just another abandoned car, the kind of thing that happens when someone falls behind on payments or forgets to move their vehicle. But when investigators finally opened the trunk, what they found wasn't just shocking. It was the kind of discovery that forces you to stop and ask yourself if you're even hearing the facts straight. Inside was the decomposed body of a teenage girl. No wallet, no phone, no immediate clues about who she was or how she ended up there. Just silence, and a car that suddenly turned from a symbol of success into the centerpiece of a horror story. And then came the twist that made the internet explode. The Tesla wasn't just any car. It belonged to David, the 20-year-old singer-songwriter who had been riding the wave of viral fame. This wasn't a faceless suspect with no history. This was someone with millions of streams, someone fans recognized instantly from TikTok snippets, someone who'd just partnered with Fortnite. The contrast was staggering. On one side, a polished career still climbing toward mainstream recognition. On the other, a discovery that felt like something out of a crime thriller, except this was real, and it was tied directly to a public figure everyone thought they knew. Almost instantly, hashtags flooded every corner of the internet. Some people refused to believe it at first, calling it a setup, a smear campaign, or even a marketing stunt gone horribly wrong. Others were quick to connect dots that no one had dared to say out loud until that moment. If this was true, it would change the way David's entire body of work was interpreted. But before anyone could jump to conclusions, investigators dropped a name. The body wasn't just unidentified remains. It was a girl whose face many people remembered from missing posters. A name that carried its own tragic story. And that's where this situation moved from confusing to devastating. Because the victim was Celeste Rivas. The name hit hard, Celeste Rivas. She wasn't just a random teenager. She was a missing girl who had disappeared in 2024 at only 13 years old. Her face had been plastered across local news reports and community searches, with her family begging for answers. For years, her case had been cold. No updates. No leads. Just silence. Now, her story had taken the darkest turn imaginable. At just 15, her remains were found in the trunk of David's Tesla. The immediate question was devastating in its simplicity. How long had she been there? Authorities have been cautious about releasing details, but the timeline raises horrifying possibilities. Celeste was gone for years, and David, the same David who was performing on stage, smiling in interviews and posting daily online, may have been keeping her hidden all that time. Even worse? Reports began suggesting that Celeste wasn't just with David in secret. Evidence pointed to the possibility of a relationship, one he deliberately concealed while presenting himself to fans as a heartbroken but relatable young artist. That secrecy made the discovery all the more chilling. This wasn't just a body in a car. This was a life that had been stolen, hidden, and erased from public view, while the world unknowingly celebrated the man behind it. And as the details came into focus, people started looking back at David's work with entirely new eyes. That's when the story took another disturbing twist. Long before investigators opened that trunk, David had already been singing about death, heartbreak, and violence. His most famous track, Romantic Homicide, suddenly sounded less like a metaphor and more like a confession. The song's lyrics, "In the back of my mind, I killed you and I don't even regret it," now felt impossible to listen to without shivers. Fans pointed out something even more disturbing. The track had been released on Celeste's birthday. What once seemed like edgy coincidence now felt like calculated cruelty. In the music video, imagery of loss and obsession blurred with dark visuals that, in hindsight, felt too close to reality. Scenes of hidden figures, shadowy cars, and lyrics about regret and murder suddenly mirrored the very circumstances of Celeste's tragic discovery. For millions of fans who once sang along without thinking twice, the realization was crushing. Had David been telling the truth all along, hidden in plain sight through his art? Or was it all coincidence, eerie, horrifying coincidence that nobody could explain away anymore? Either way, the parallels left fans shaken. And that was only the beginning. David was always chronically online. That's part of what made him so relatable in the first place. Discord calls with fans, constant memes, TikTok reposts, and edgy edits. But after the discovery, every corner of his digital footprint became evidence. Screenshots surfaced of his late-night Discord calls with Celeste. Some showed conversations that fans described as unsettling. Others suggested that he blurred the line between fan interaction and something much darker. Then came the edits. David had frequently reposted American Psycho clips, showcasing a fascination with cold, violent characters. Out of context, they once seemed like harmless aesthetic choices. But now fans couldn't shake the feeling that these were glimpses into a mindset he'd been hiding in plain sight. And perhaps the most damning evidence of all? Multiple reports claimed that David had been performing Romantic Homicide with altered lyrics, shifting the line from "I killed you" to "I killed her." At the time, fans brushed it off as performance flair. But now it looked like an admission sung live on stage. The internet doesn't forget. Every post, every lyric, every edit was dragged back into the spotlight and dissected like pieces of a puzzle. And what people found in his art made them shudder. Once fans started connecting dots, they didn't stop. His videos often featured women with striking similarities to Celeste. Same long hair, same delicate frame, same youthful appearance. The imagery wasn't subtle. In some videos, cars played a major role, with shots lingering on trunks, headlights, and lonely parking lots. It all seemed like foreshadowing. Or worse, taunting. For years, David had built a brand around heartbreak and obsession. But now, viewers rewatched his videos like crime scene tapes, spotting hidden meanings everywhere. A woman crying in a dimly lit room. A figure being driven away in silence. The parallels piled up until fans couldn't ignore them anymore. The conclusion many drew was horrifying. Maybe David wasn't just writing about pain. Maybe he was documenting it. If the situation wasn't already horrifying enough, the age difference only added fuel to the outrage. David was 20. Celeste had been 13 when she vanished. Even if investigators later revealed the exact timeline of their connection, the math doesn't lie. He was an adult, and she was a child. This wasn't just an influencer gone wrong. It was the worst-case scenario of what happens when fame, power, and obsession collide. The music industry has seen its fair share of young stars spiraling under the spotlight. Some crash in messy scandals, others fade into obscurity. But David's story seemed to twist into something darker. Instead of self-destruction, it looked like he dragged someone else down with him. It was a career path no one expected, and one no one wanted to believe. That's what makes this story so surreal. On one hand, David's career looked untouchable. He was selling out shows, signing collaborations, and cementing his image as the voice of heartbreak. His Fortnite collab alone seemed like proof that he'd moved from internet niche to mainstream acceptance. But behind the curtain, something unthinkable was happening. The Tesla sitting quietly, the hidden relationship, the girl whose life ended far too early, it was the complete opposite of the glossy, curated world he presented. Fans were left asking, how can someone perform love songs to screaming crowds while knowing a secret like this sat just a few miles away in a parked car? How do you smile for cameras when there's a truth this heavy following you? It was the collision of two worlds, the public idol and the private reality, and the wreckage was devastating. The David story isn't just another headline in the long list of influencer scandals. It's something darker, something that forces people to rethink the way we look at fame, art, and the creators we idolize. Because just because someone can sing beautifully doesn't mean they're a good person. Just because someone can rack up millions of followers doesn't mean they deserve trust. And maybe the scariest part of all is this. Sometimes the art we consume isn't just art. Sometimes it's a reflection of something far more disturbing, hidden right in front of us. So the next time you scroll past a viral song or a meme-worthy influencer, maybe pause and ask yourself, do we really know who we're supporting? But of course, this story is far from over. Investigations are still unfolding, more details will come out, and the internet will keep dissecting every scrap of evidence. For now, one thing is clear. The David case isn't just insane, it's a reminder of how fragile the line is between fame and infamy. And with that, let me know in the comments, what meme, story, or scandal should I break down next? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around because the internet's darkest stories are often the ones hiding in plain sight.